So, Dr. Gregory Lunsford, y'all know the one that everybody calls meek and mild and doesn't cause any problems. That one. He jumped into that young buck's face and tested his gangster when he told him, "Yeah, I told your girl to shut the F up." And all of these men will tell you that if I would have knew you a little better, I would have told you to shut the F up too. Okay? He sunned him. He told him to his face with witnesses, "You better ask about me." Don't try it. You better ask about me. Okay, Greg. Okay. What's up, Supreme Team? Welcome to the channel, you guys. Come on in, come on in. Bump up the thumbs up. Make sure y'all share this video, please and thank you. This is my review for Married to Medicine, episode 11. Yes, I was reviewing it and then I stopped because there were some people on that show that was annoying me to pieces and I didn't want to have to keep getting on and complaining about it. But these last two episodes, episode 10 and 11, has been top notch. So let's talk about it. Okay, y'all see the scroll. This is what we do. So I am going to tell y'all a little bit about episode 10 first, right? Because that's what pops off what we're going to see in episode 11. Y'all know every time Married to Medicine has a trip, a couples trip, where they're supposed to heal their marriages and heal their friendships. So they'll, get to the nit and grit of whatever these problems are, right? And in this question section, it's really a face-off between Quad and her new man, King, and the new Lunsfords. Greg, Dr. G, and Sweet Tea. And Quad is high off the sauce, okay? I don't know what she was drinking, tequila maybe, I don't know. But whatever it was, she was getting her everlasting life, okay? So she is pouring it on thick, like her and her new man is above everybody else, in particular, Greg. She made a comment like, she finally has a man that she wants to have a baby with. Y'all know that was a slap in the face, okay? After she says that, I think the next question was, how many times a week do you have whoopee, okay? And that's when King chimes in and said, more than 15 times. More than 15 times a week, child. Absolutely lies. Well, you listen, I'm not going to call that man a liar. If that's what they say happened, that is what they're saying happened. Listen, Quad does give a little bit of pillow princess. So 15 times a week seems like it would be a bit much for her, but especially since she went, 2 years, 3 years of her marriage with Dr. Greg, where nothing at all happened. That's what, the streets say. So when King said that, Dr. G gave the nastiest side eye to them. Like okay, listen. Quad and King were sitting in front of them to Dr. G's right, and he slowly turned his head and squinted like, you lying. Like you could see all the cuss words in his head, right? But it went even worse than that, okay? Because Quad really was throwing insults to both him and Sweet Tea, but to Sweet Tea in particular. And when he was doing that, everybody, all the couples knew what was going on. And they was like, opening their eyes big, like, oh Lord, this is going to be bad. This is going to be bad, right? But it took Sweet Tea a minute to catch on. And I'm not even sure that she truly caught on, to be honest. I think that she probably didn't see it until, the shit aired and people started talking about it in the comment section. But she was kind of laughing, like giggling and smiling, like, what's going on, kind of thing. And I was like, girl, you don't know that you're being insulted? Dr. G knew immediately. Okay. Dr. G and Quad has matching his and her mugshots. So he knows that lady well. Okay. They were married for several years and the mugshots came before the marriage. You know what I'm saying? So they were committed to being toxic. You know what I'm saying? So when Quad is popping off, Dr. G is catching every one of those things and he knows what she's doing. And when she made the comment, my ex chose the best woman for him, and he told her to shut the F up. Now, when he says it, Quad ignored it. King immediately looks back like, I know you didn't. Oh, yes, he did, sir. This is important because King gonna lie in episode 11. But yes, he did. Okay, that's number one. Quad turns around. She doesn't, I think she says something like, I know you're not talking to me or something like that. And then she says under her breath, all the work I put into you, and that's what you chose. Whew. Listen, it didn't even stop there. Okay, so after all of that happened, Greg and Sweet Tea go back to the room, and you can tell it's on. It's on because Sweet Tea is unable to really understand why Greg is mad. Like he was screaming at her, shut the F up in front of everybody. In front of everybody. He's screaming, shut the F up. Now he said it to Quad too, though, but he said it to Quad once. And then he continued to say it to Sweet Tea. And then the way they edited, you know, the scene, they made it seem real cutesy. But when Dr. G gets back to the room, them cameras are there. He probably wanted to pop off even more at Sweet Tea, but he took them slides off, put his tennis shoes on, and he ends up screaming at Sweet Tea before he walks out the door. When I tell you something, you do it. I know her. I know what she was trying to do. You sitting here talking. And Sweet Tea is like, well, why are you yelling at me, though? I didn't do anything. Why are you yelling at me, though? And I'm like, Sweet Tea, that first year of marriage or however many years y'all been married now, you're going in your second. This is like some hard times because you got to figure out, you know, the demeanor. He has to figure out your demeanor, what sets you off. You got to figure out he is. And then adding an ex-wife into the mix, one that has as much history as Dr. G had with Quad, it's tough to navigate. So I felt bad for her when I saw it. But he ends up leaving because Greg knows himself. You know what I'm saying? And he didn't want to give the camera anything. So he ends up leaving the room. Sweet Tea is kind of fussing when she gets left behind. Whew, it was a lot. And now we are at episode 11 the next morning. Okay, so let's get into it. So all the couples are in their rooms, you know, talking about what happened the night before. Everybody except Phaedra and Chet, child. Phaedra and Chet are feeding each other strawberries like they could give two cares about all the nonsense that happened the night before. Forget Quad, forget Sweet Tea. We don't care, okay? Simone and Cecil are in their rooms. Simone has on a full face of glam, and I'm not kidding, like beautiful glam, okay? And her hair is in a headscarf. She got a computer on her lap, so maybe she had some sort of Zoom meeting. But Cecil was talking about, what's his name, King, and talking about his, you know, King had them pectoral muscles and the abs going. Cecil stood up and unbuttoned his shirt right to the belly, okay, right to the gut before we get to the pregnancy belly. And he was pretending like he was Queen King, talking about, I don't even want to be with a woman unless they talk about me the way Quad talks about King. And she was like, I know that's right. Like Simone and him are high-fiving. Y'all know how Simone and Cecil do. They're funny to me. I like them as a couple. But anyway, they're doing that. In the meantime, Quad and King are in their room. They are already started the morning off with champagne, child, and eating cheese. And they said, listen, things went really left last night, especially when I said that we get it in 15 times a week. 15 times a week. Quad said, my ex is giving me the impression he's not over me, okay? Now, King, he's listening to this and, excuse me, he has a straight face, you know what I'm saying? But part of me was thinking, does that young man want to hear her say all that? Doesn't matter. She said it, okay? In Greg and Sweet Tea's room, it is giving something completely different. What I really appreciated was the contrast of King and Sweet Tea, because both of these two are youngins compared to Quad and Dr. G, right? I don't know what the age difference is between Quad and King. I don't think it's as big as between Sweet Tea and Greg, but King is still a young man, you know what I'm saying, who's dating an older woman who has an ex-husband. So you can tell that he's trying to navigate, and his navigation is staying silent, which is actually smart because it makes you look smarter. Whereas Sweet Tea's navigation is to open her mouth and let everybody know that she's not where she should be. She's not where she should be when it comes to picking things up and, handling her business. But Greg and Sweet Tea are in the room. He apologizes for losing his anger, but he said, I don't apologize for what I said, which is shade, because you told that girl to shut the F up in front of everybody, and she knows it. So she's sitting there looking at Greg like, are you serious? Like, she's making these faces like, we're on camera. You're kind of disrespecting me again. And I'm throwing in the kind of, he is disrespecting you again, Sweet Tea. That's not even a joke. He's disrespecting you again. She knows it and she does not like it. And she shouldn't, okay? She's definitely picking up his shade. He says something else like, they're going back and forth between rooms, but when they come back, he says, I am sorry that I lost my temper this time. And he said, but I was trying to protect you. Again, Sweet Tea rolls her eyes, like, not even rolls her eyes. She gives like a face, she's shocked. What do you mean you're trying to protect me? Because she's probably thinking, listen, I told you I didn't want to come back on this shitty ass show. You brought me here. That's not protecting me. That's number one. Number two, you haven't said anything to your wife or ex-wife, excuse me, to your ex-wife about how, things are going between she and I or anybody else on this platform. So how are you trying to protect me? I'm filling in the blanks for y'all because Sweet Tea's mind was racing when he was talking to her, and you could tell. Okay. Then he makes another comment. Sweet Tea actually says to him, listen, I can't, let this person say things to me and me not talk back, okay? Because at this point, she's like, you're talking Arabic to me. I don't even know what this is. She gets to say what she wants to me, but I don't get to say anything to her. Greg says, this is where that age gap relationship thing comes in. And he's like laughing at Sweet Tea now, laughing at her, not with her, at her. He says something like, I guess I can't expect you to be elder wise. You're not an elder wise person. Now Sweet Tea again is like, what are you doing? And she's like, no, I'm not. And he was like, yeah, I get it. I know you ain't. And he's laughing to the point of where he's like sitting on the bed, but he throws his entire body into this laughter, head down, ha, 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 and then had the nerve to do one of those in the laugh. You know what I'm saying? Like he's really getting his life. Sweet Tea, baby. Listen, that first year of marriage, man, it is a lot. But child, you better get Greg together because that's not cool. He ain't protecting you even in this scene. I didn't like it. I didn't. But it actually, that whole moment, it actually aired more on what Quad used to say about him and what we used to see in those first seasons than anything else. You ain't changed much, Greg. You need to be supporting her a little more because the only reason she is on this show is because of you. Even if she was asked by Dr. Heavenly or encouraged to do it by Dr. Jackie, you, Dr. G, know the ins and outs of the show. You know what it's about. You know all the players here. These people have been here since season 1. You were here in season 1. So since you know everything, you are leaving your wife out to dry when you're not at least supporting her in the scenes between you and her. Nasty work. Okay. That's my opinion. Next, we get Toya and Eugene there with the new couple, Steve and Dr. Mimi. Now, y'all know Steve is a retired football player. I think he played with the Browns. Who else? I think he said maybe the Chiefs and Detroit, right? Anyway, he was a receiver. big guy. At least he presents as a big guy on that show. I mean, still very much in shape, muscular, like neck, arms, everything. Okay, everything. But they are in their SUV and they're headed off the resort, I guess, going to see some of the city, have lunch outside of the resort. Dr. Eugene is very happy that there's another couple on the show in the industry, okay? And he is excited to make new friends. You can tell he's in the back of the boat, or excuse me, back of the boat, back of the SUV, saying things like, I'm really happy that we have this alone time and all that stuff, right? Important, because there's about to be a shift. So they get to their lunch spot, wherever they are, they're at their lunch spot. And Toya says that she'd like to order a tequila straight. Y'all know Toya is about her liquors, okay? So she orders her tequila straight. I think they must have made a comment like, well, damn, girl, you know what I'm saying? It's pretty early, tequila already? And she said, yeah, I like tequila. No additives, no preservatives. You wouldn't like Toya on additives and preservatives. And this is where the shift happens. Steve, new to the game, new to the group, Steve, decides to speak on this man's wife. Eugene is sitting right there and he says, well, Steve says, well, you're right about that, because I'm assuming Toya was on additives and preservatives last night when she made the little comment in the group that made all of us uncomfortable about Quad and Dr. G. Now, when he says it, Eugene is literally looking back and forth between like Steve and his wife, like, wait a minute, man, where's this coming from? He was not expecting it. And he didn't know what to do with it, to be honest. He probably was looking at him like, he's a big ass dude. Let me just, measure this out. Take baby steps with it. Smart thinking, Dr. Eugene. But anyway, after they go through all of that, that's when Dr. Mimi, the wife, Steve's wife, she is a psychiatrist, I believe as well. She puts on her white coat and leans into Toya like, so Toya, what makes you angry? Now, again, Dr. Eugene is like, what are y'all doing? Toya's like, I didn't think I did anything wrong. Now, she asked a question like, it's really weird. I think this is what she said. She made a statement. It's really weird to see Quad and her new man in the same setting with Dr. G and his new wife. They have history with these people. So she said, I was just saying what everyone was thinking. I didn't realize it was that big of a deal. Furthermore, I'm doing what I need to do to get a check. That's why Dr. Mimi and Steve, the football player, get to sit here on the platform we created, right? So she's like, I don't know what's up with y'all, but y'all better, get with it. Dr. Eugene is still a mess though. So they come back from their confessional scene and Steve is still leaning in it. He was like, well, basically it was like a gasoline pool party and you up here bringing the match. Toya says, I didn't bring a match. And Eugene's like, well, you kind of did, Toya. You brought the match, y'all. We usually do. They all start laughing, but at the same time, you can just tell that Dr. Eugene was not feeling Steve in that moment. He didn't know what to do with it. So we'll see if anything comes from this. Y'all remember when Dr. Eugene was into it with the Indian doctor, whose name I forget, I think was Kira. Dr. Kira or Kirna, whatever. Y'all tell me in the comments. Either way, I was like, oh, I know Eugene thought he was going to just cruise, but it looks like Steve is going to be an Achilles heel for him. Anyway, let's move on to the next scene, child, which happens to be Dr. Jackie and Heavenly. Dr. Jackie, Dr. Heavenly are in Heavenly's room. She's getting her hair done because they're about to take this boat trip. They're about to go to the sandbar. Simone comes and visits. Okay, so she inserts herself into what they got going on. And Dr. Jackie said, well, what were your thoughts about last night to Simone? Because it looks like Dr. Jackie may have been giving Heavenly a little bit of hell. You know what I'm saying? So Simone is trying to be supportive And she said, I thought that your questions were top notch. However, I do think that what happened between Quad and Dr. G shows that they need a little more healing because there's a lot of mess going on between the two of them. Dr. Heavenly was like, I thought the shit was funny. I thought the shit was funny. Why are you upset about what they got going on? Okay. And Dr. Simone said, in no way, shape, or form was that mess funny. Okay. That was horrible. I think she might have even called it some of the worst she's ever seen, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, Heavenly was like, well, if you thought that was a problem, let me run this past you. She said, y'all want to know a secret? They was like, sure. What's the secret? Apollo is coming. I invited Apollo. Apollo's coming. She went, yeah, I already told Phaedra. She already know. Dr. Simone, Dr. Jackie give each other a look, and they're like, girl, when things pop off, that's what we're going to say to you, that Phaedra knew, okay? Because you know that this is a recipe for disaster, okay? And that's basically how it ends. Now, I will say this. Phaedra did know. We already saw a scene a couple of episodes back where Heavenly asked, it might have been episode 10, where Heavenly asked, Phaedra, do you mind if I invite Apollo? Okay. And Phaedra said, what the hell would I mind for? We're divorced. I don't care. But Phaedra also knows that her husband is thirsty to be back on TV, and that his wife, okay, before this divorce thing happened, his wife was also thirsty to be on TV. It's probably the reason she married him in the first place. So Phaedra plays chess, not checkers, period. And she said, if those little thirsty asses is going to show up on my platform, I'm going to give them what they want. Facts. Y'all know it's true. Okay. Phaedra does not let things happen to her. She plays. She plays in the sand with everybody else in the sandbox. Okay. So anyway, now we are at the boat. Everybody is at the boat. The only person missing from the boat is Apollo at the moment. And they think, at least Heavenly thinks, it's just going to be Apollo. Because when she did call and extend the invite, Apollo said Shireen can't come. That's his wife, right? And we all know Shireen, if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, from RHOA, when she popped up as a guest of Todd and Peter at some restaurant and presented herself as the girlfriend of Apollo when Apollo was still very much married. Now, he was in prison at the time when she shows up, but he still was very much married. And she said, well, Phaedra isn't taking care of business, so somebody has to. Where's this? Okay, that's enough. The side chick mentality is wild to me, that you would even want to show up in a space and put that on TV is wild to me. But she did, and it may be the very reason she found herself in the situation she's in now. Because guess what? Apollo wasted no time, okay, cheating on your ass with some woman that got caught on a ring camera and sent out to all of social media, and we all saw it. And then what happened on this show? Well, we all saw that Apollo might still have some feelings for his ex-wife, Phaedra. It is what it is, okay? But I digress. Heavenly calls Apollo and said, listen, we can only wait so much longer. You know what I'm saying? We are on the boat. Where are you? And he lets Heavenly know that he is on his way, okay? And everybody is on the boat. At this point, when he's walking up, Apollo is walking up with Shireen. All of the couples are on the boat smirking and laughing because they know they are about to get paid. Do you hear me? At the end of the day, I don't care. People can say messy, messy, messy all you want to. All you had to do was look at every one of those cast members' faces, all the way on down to Greg, who seemed to have his problems with King and Quad. He had the biggest smile on his face, like, thank God. This shit ain't going to be just about me, okay? He was happy. Do you tell me? Okay? Happy. Who else? Who else did I think? Oh, Jackie's husband, Curtis, he also had a big ass smile. We know how boring Jackie and Curtis can be. They were smiling ear to ear, like, is that who I think it is? Child, them women really be getting their life when the dirty stuff happens on these shows, okay? But anyway, I digress. Now Apollo and his wife are on the boat and they see Chet's big ass, who looks like he's standing 6'7" or something like that. And Shireen just beelines it for Chet and hugs him. What are you doing here? Like, she makes sure her entire arms are around this brother's neck. Phaedra makes a face like, what the fuck is this, right? But she knows that Chet knows her ex-husband. If he knows the ex-husband, he knows the wife too, right? But Phaedra makes this face like, what the, right? And she, when people's like, who is that? Who is that? She was like, oh, that's my ex-husband's wife. Phaedra's into it. She don't care. She's telling everybody what's up. Like, I don't give a damn. Chet comes over beside Phaedra and says, let me get you a drink. She want a drink for what? I don't need no drink. I don't need no drink. She basically like, baby, this is not stressful for me. Don't go get me a drink like I can't handle what the fuck is going on. I see what's going on. And this heifer ain't taking me up out my skin. Chess, not checkers. You go ahead, Phaedra, with your bad self, okay? Phaedra also was dressed in a thong bikini with all her clappers out. Every single bit. She had on this mesh cover up. She was not afraid to let it all out, baby. She said, I don't give a damn. I make more money than that lady. I look better than that lady. My body is body-yaddy-yaddying. Okay, don't feed me no drinks, boo. I need to be sober for what's about to happen here. Woo! That was Master TV right there. But anyway, Shireen and Apollo, they say their highs to everybody, their hellos, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, everybody seemed to be having a good time on the boat after that when they were on their way to the sandbar. There was a lot of Don Julio, okay, going around. They was dancing and twerking and all the things. Nobody seemed like they were uncomfortable or out of sorts. Okay, so I enjoyed it. Now in confessional, Phaedra is asked by one of the producers if she still thought it was a good idea to bring Chet on the couples trip. And Phaedra, who is snatched, baby, in the confessional, looks at the producer and said, I'm not answering that. I thought it was a dumb question anyway, because really Phaedra is supposed to be there. Apollo isn't. Do you think it was rude for Apollo to show up on her platform with his current wife is the real question. But Phaedra said, I'm not answering that. I don't know what that's about, but absolutely not. I don't actually blame her for that. I thought that was pretty, it just shows that she knows how to handle herself. Okay. A lot of people get upset because they're like, well, the producer, you know what? You tell them producers what they need to be told. You feel me? Anyway, now everybody is on the beach and they are, taking pictures and, really trying to memorialize the trip. Dr. Simone said, this is the only sandbar with 8 doctors on it. Okay. You better. Okay, Simone, you better. Married to Medicine. The Black Married to Medicine is the only show in history of any reality TV show to have that much education on one platform, period. Okay. Be proud of that. Anyway, everyone's taking their pictures and showing off their clappers, child, and whatever else, grabbing their little floaties to go out to the water. And, the men are trying to get to know the new guys, right? Like Apollo, for instance. I forget who asked, but somebody said, who do you know on the trip to Apollo? And instead of Apollo saying Phaedra's my ex, because, that seems like a good lead in, he actually says, well, I was invited by Heavenly and Damon, Dr. Damon. And then he makes the comment, I know this one, I know Quad, I know that one. He said he knew everybody except for Chet, I think, and Phaedra. He definitely didn't say he knew Phaedra. Okay, so finally, this gives Curtis something to say. Curtis is in the confessional, and he was like, "Look, Apollo can ignore how he got here and ignore Phaedra if he wants to, but nothing is a secret in this group." You're right, Curtis, because your secrets have been told amongst the group, right? But now all the men are in a whose balls are the biggest contest. At least they're trying to have the contest, okay? And I don't even know how it started. Maybe they started talking about football because of Steve, and they were like, oh, we should have had a ball here. Some kind of way, they challenge each other to a push-up contest, which Dr. G quickly takes on. He accepts the challenge, okay? And this man gets down in the sand and starts doing push-ups and saying one LaTEASHA, two LaTEASHA, all the way until he got to 25, I guess, child. It was a lot, okay? In the meantime, Eugene is sitting there like, are you kidding me? What is going on? In fact, I want to say everybody was doing it. They were looking down at Dr. G like, you do know there's no medical team here. If something was to happen to you, there's nobody here to help you. I mean, listen, look at me. There is a whole island full of doctors, but I meant, maybe a defibrillator or something like that. I don't know. Listen, Dr. G, just get back on that damn lounge chair is what I'm really trying to say. But Dr. G says, I don't know what this is. I will not be participating. Okay. I got on my crew neck and a black crew neck at that. It's hot on this beach. I will be sitting right here, smoking my cigar and drinking my Don Julio. Why is this even happening? Can we just not have a normal conversation? The answer is no. Okay. From there, I believe it's Eugene who actually says to King, the new guy, I want to thank you for coming on the trip. And, we don't know each other. It's good to get to know you, brother, kind of thing. And, even though things went a little wonky, even though he didn't say it quite like that, but, even though things went a little crazy last night, I appreciate that you weren't disrespectful or you didn't take things up a notch because you didn't, you know what I'm saying? I appreciate you if nobody else does. And King said, no problem. I appreciate that. I enjoy being here with y'all. That's when Dr. G takes it up a notch because Dr. G is feeling nice, okay? He got that damn cigar and whatever he's sipping on. And he said, I want to thank you too, okay, for it not being disrespectful. I hope you don't think I was disrespectful to you or to her, referring to Quad. And that's when King says, no problem. You know what I'm saying? A lot of stuff went on when y'all were together. And so, we got to let the past be the past. That was a nice thing to say. That is basically saying, let's just kill it. We don't have to take this any further, right? That wasn't good enough for Dr. G. Dr. G says, well, all I told her is she should shut the fuck up. That's all I told her. King says, you said that to her? King, he said that to her. You heard him. But he says, you said that to her because now, again, you're trying to play him like a punk in front of all these men. And you did. Okay. So after he says that, he said, yeah, I said it. Dr. G said, yeah, I did tell her that. I told her to shut the fuck up. Okay. Every single man in that huddle had a face like this motherfucker here. And they were making that face at Dr. G. At Dr. G. First, they was like, first the push-ups. And basically they're like, dude, you didn't have to make this right now. You didn't have to turn it into this, but we see what you're doing, okay? So King says, I didn't hear you say that last night. I think you owe her an apology. That's when he says, I am offended. King says, I am offended, and you need to apologize. I'm offended, and you need to apologize. Dr. G, who's a good 5 feet away from King, popped up out of this beach lounge chair so quickly, like on his feet so quickly. He moved across like Lucy Lou, okay? For whatever that little thing with Pai Mei and all them, he came across the sand like, and he was in this man's face this close with his cigar in his hand, okay? A cigar in his hand, like he was going to, he knew how to play dirty. If you want to fight, we can fight, but I'll burn your ass with the cigar first, and then we'll take it from there. A little sand in the eye, whatever it takes. You know what I'm saying? He said, your pectoral muscles, your abs, they do not scare me. I'm gangster, okay? That's when he got in his face and said, listen, I told her that she needs to shut the fuck up. And you can ask any man here, if I would have knew you before last night, I would have told you to shut the F up too. Anybody will tell you. Anybody will tell you I do that. King ate. He ate it. Do you hear me? He put his whole entire peen in King's mouth and told him to swallow it. I don't care what you think. That was so wrong. This man that everybody loves, that everybody thinks is meek, that everybody thinks is mild, doesn't do anything, say anything. He's telling us, he's giving us some insight on who he is. He's not exactly the guy that everybody picks with, okay? We can take that off the table. That's not true. That's not true. Everybody's uncomfortable though. All the men are sitting here like, oh, what's about to happen next? You know what I'm saying? Because this could be easily a fight. Eugene ends up saying, well, can I interject, to try to break the energy in the moment? And he goes, damn, what do I want to say? What do I want to say? It was so awkward. What do I want to say? Because he couldn't think of anything. Cecil is looking at him and he goes, well, Quad and Dr. G have history, and there's a lot of upset and emotion there, right? So, he's trying to ease things. That's when King says there's a lot of trauma and a lot of triggers, okay? Absolutely a lot of trauma and a lot of triggers. Dr. G tells King that he hopes that he's willing to take up for her. In other words, if you want to take it there, brother, we can, because I will fight you, okay? King says, I don't have no problem with you. Dr. G says, good. Good. I don't have a problem with you either. He turns and goes back to his seat in that moment. Now, this is funny because Dr. G 1000% punked King in that situation. Now, I'm going to take y'all to Watch What Happens Live because Sweet Tea was a guest on Watch What Happens Live. They play the little, fight scene where King takes off his shirt and, spins around, comes after him or whatever. Andy Cohen asked Sweet Tea, how do you think Greg did against King? And Sweet Tea said, I think he did the best he could do, which is not a compliment by any means, okay? And when he says it, Dr. G is sitting in the audience. The camera pans to Dr. G because they know that that was a blow to his male ego, especially after what he did in that first part of the scene. Again, Dr. G squints his eyes like, what is wrong with you? You said it. You already said it, Dr. G. There is an age gap between y'all. I don't know why that girl would say that in that moment, but she did. She made you look like a clown, okay? So for all of the work that you did, because you did some good work in the very beginning, Sweet Tea did not have your back, okay? All right, now we're going to another part of the beach. Phaedra and Chet, they are taking sexy photos. Chet is picking Phaedra up, child, putting her on his little washboard abs. Woo! It was very, very sexy, okay? And while all of that sexual tension is happening at that end of the beach, Apollo is staring a hole into Phaedra and into Chet. And he said that this is some of the most disrespectful things he has ever seen. He said Chet is his real friend. He comes over to his house for Thanksgiving and all kinds of stuff. So he didn't understand what was going on here. Why are you here with my ex-wife? I guess he's there with your ex-wife the way your ex-wife showed up on RHOA. Okay, or excuse me, the way your current wife showed up on RHOA when Phaedra was over there. Anyway, while that is happening, everybody else except for Phaedra is in the water. Okay, all the other girls are in the water, and they're also talking about Phaedra and Chet. I guess they're like, look like they're having fun or whatever the case may be. Phaedra to find herself a boyfriend. Shireen decides to chime in. She did not have to. You are a guest on this trip. You do not have to say anything, okay? In fact, if you really wanted to look unbothered, which would have been the best way to play it, you shouldn't have said anything at all. But she says that ain't her boyfriend. Chet is everybody's boyfriend in Atlanta. He's a family friend. He's a this, he's a that. She's telling all of Chet's business, okay? He got tested for this back in 1920. What? While she's saying this, everybody in the water is quiet because this group of ladies know how to film. You know what I'm saying? Let that lady have her time because this is all going to be on camera and they know it and they're not going to add to it. So they're just sitting there looking like, okay, girl, keep talking, keep sharing the business. And she does. Finally, Phaedra and Chet make their way over to this little group. And the ladies are like, so Chet, are you a family friend of the Nidas? And you be over there for family dinners and things like that? And he's like, how is this any of your business? But he entertains them a little bit. Apollo rolls up on him and he basically says, I think what you two got going on is a mess. He doesn't like it. He's very vocal about it. Phaedra looks at Apollo and says, what does it matter to you? You and I aren't married. We've been divorced for 7 years. That's when Shireen jumps in it, okay, and said something like, ain't nobody worried about, he ain't worried about you, Phaedra. Phaedra ignores her because the proof is in the pudding and she's smarter than Shireen, right? Again, chestnut checker. She's very smart. She gonna let you sit in that water and fuss and fight about what's happening between her and her ex-husband because it makes you look like a clown. When she couldn't get Phaedra's attention, she ends up saying to Apollo, see, I told you, Faye, boop. Faye who? The second she said Faye, Phaedra didn't let her finish her sentence. And she said, my name is Phaedra, you bad body bitch. That was a shutdown right there. Okay. And then she said, don't tell me he's not worried about what I got going on, because there isn't anything that I do that he's not following behind me and trying to figure out or put himself on my coattails. Okay. Basically, she called y'all some fame chasing whores that you guys are constantly looking to be put on to whatever she has going on. Okay. She called you thirsty, fame thirsty whores, always looking to be in her space. And from what it looks like, she ain't lying. Now, while Phaedra's saying that, and she didn't break a sweat when she said it either. She wasn't puffed up. She just said what she had to say, just as easy peasy. Okay. No energy for it at all. Just so you know your place type of thing. Chet grabs her by the shoulders and said, we're not doing this. We already talked about this. He walks her up the beach, right? They're gone. Now, that happened and it should have been over. If anybody said anything after that, it would have been like, Shireen, are you okay? Do you want to go get a drink? Apollo maybe get Shireen and y'all walk off. But no. This is a moment that Sweet Tea feels the need to inject herself into. Okay, she interjects here. She says, who invited Shireen? Who invited Shireen and Apollo? I think Shireen said we were invited by Heavenly. And she said, why would you invite them? And Heavenly said, none of your business, bitch. I don't answer to you. What is this about? Which, yeah, no one else is having this conversation. You're new to the group too. You know what I'm saying? So when she says, it's none of your business, what's it to you? She says, Phaedra is my friend. If Phaedra was really your friend, you would have left with Phaedra. When Chet walked her off, you would have left with Phaedra to make sure she was okay. Or if you were really Phaedra's friend, your heat would have been for Shireen, not for the person who invited her. You are really, really late to the party, Sweet Tea. There was no reason for you to even jump bad there, but you did. And Heavenly took the bait, and she's all, so Heavenly's doing her robot. She tries to stand up like she's about to jump in Sweet Tea's face. The water pulls her back down like, bitch, please sit. Don't do that. Okay. We don't need to see any more of your titties popping out of your shirt. And they ain't lying. We didn't. But she falls back into the water. Now we got Simone trying to hold Heavenly. The men are at the other end of the beach. They see the women fighting. They go running down to grab their respective wives or whoever's into it. Sweet Tea gets grabbed by Dr. G. Dr. G is saying, if you love me, you'll calm down. If you love me, you'll calm down. He keeps repeating that. I'm like, this is too much. It's too much for me. Anyway, he ends up walking her over to where Phaedra is. And Phaedra is as cool as a cucumber. She's not giving any energy to any of it, including what Sweet Tea is doing. She's just like, okay, girl, calm down, calm down. Now King says, this is my moment. Because he's like, well, now Dr. G don't have the help of the men. This is exactly what it looks like. When you was balking and doing all that talking with all the men around, I feel like you was giving me way too much because you thought, or you knew somebody was going to hold me back. So now I'm in your face, boo. And he comes over, and while Sweet Tea he says to Sweet Tea, let me talk to him for a minute. He doesn't even ask. Like, he's just like, let me talk to him. Let me talk to him. In other words, bitch, I don't even know what you're doing, but he's not giving you anything. Greg leaves Sweet Tea with Phaedra while him and King walk off a little bit. Chet's there and some of the other men are around in the huddle, but they're minding their business, allowing King and Dr. G to talk, okay? But Sweet Tea must have a sense, about her, where she's like, I feel like something's going to pop off. And Phaedra's like, listen, Chet's not going to let anything happen. Let the men talk, okay? You can let the men talk. And she does. And King basically says, well, listen, I do think that you owe her an apology. And now that none of the men are around like they were before, you and I can talk. Dr. G said, I don't take anything back. He said, listen, if King says, listen, if you got something to say to her, don't, okay? Outside of apologizing, anything that gets under your skin about that woman, my woman, you can talk to me about from this point forward, okay? You said we didn't know each other before. Now we do, okay? So anything that you think you need to say to my woman, you can say to me. That's what you told him, Dr. G. You said, I didn't know you before. And if I did know you, I would have told you X, Y, and Z. Well, now y'all have been formally introduced and all the things. So Dr. G basically says, listen, if she says something to me, I'm going to say something back to her. You can't tell me not to say something to her if she says something to me. Okay. Some people might agree with that. Some people might think that's a little bitch made. It just depends on what side of the fence you sit on. And they get a little louder, and then they start coming together, and the men jumps in. They grab him. I think Steve may have grabbed King. King comes up off his shirt, pulled them glasses off. I heard Dr. G say something to the extent of, I know what your woman is like. And I don't know if he said something like sexual, but it definitely, something was said that got cut out. Whatever was said that got cut out had King racing down the beach. And when he was going like this, like King was really trying to come after him. That's true. The way his hands was moving, he was ready. Dr. G kept bouncing back, bouncing back. When Andy Cohen asked Dr. G, did you expect King to react to you like that? Dr. G said, I didn't know that I said anything that would have made him react like that. Dr. G, you lying. Okay, that's number one. But what we find out in the aftermath of all this is that Dr. G went down to the network, made a formal complaint against King, even though he asked for the smoke. Okay, he made a formal complaint against King to get him kicked off of the show, Married to Medicine. Did I say LAMH before? If I accidentally said that, my bad. But he went down to the network to complain, and then he made a police report, child. Apparently that's the thing to do when you know that you might have kicked up some dirt that would have people react to you. You go on down, you file your police report, you go on down, and you try to get them kicked off the show through the network. So the network did do a formal investigation, according to Quad, where they said, we will allow you guys to continue to film. Just Greg and King cannot film together, or King can't film with the rest of the group. It looks like we're going to get the answer to the network's investigation in the next episode, which I believe is a finale. And they also, I think Quad also said that the police department said that the report, whatever Greg filed, is a no-go. So that's it, y'all. That is my review for Married to Medicine, episode 11. I thought it was a great episode. I really did. It was nice to see King, take up for his woman. Greg is showing a lot more of his personality, and I thought that was okay too, to be honest. But anyways, you guys, tell me what y'all think about everything in the comment section. Please and thank you. Hit that like button, share the video. I appreciate every single one of y'all for rocking with me, and I will catch you on the next one.